Greetings! Today we're installing this, which is the Mountune Roll Restrictor or rear motor mount for Fiesta ST. Okay, so here we are underneath the car. This is our stock rear motor mount in place, as you can see. So it's a very simple process of unbolting some stuff, removing this, and then bolting in the new one. So we're going to start off with up here this plate and then this plate. So these two little nuts come off first. I say little nuts, they're all the same size, they're all 13mm. So I have here a deep socket, 13mm, just on my good old trusty wrench. So just gonna get these off. Now with these two up here that are holding in this bracket, they have like these little top hat sleeves. So whenever we take these nuts off, the top hat sleeve is going to come down as well whenever that comes off, so just be aware of that. If you're doing this, it might fall on top of you. No. Stop. Alright, so next up, these two nuts right here, and then that'll be this bracket completely off. And again, we're using the exact same socket from before, 13mm. Okay, now we're ready to remove the actual big bolts that are holding the motor mount in place. So we're going to do the rear one first, and conveniently it is also 13mm. And then the one on the front, exact same size once again. Okay, so the next part that Mountune say is to use a countersinking drill bit and to like drill this area out in order to loosen the motor mount from this bracket, and just loosen these two sort of nuts that are holding the bracket in place. But a lot of people, and certainly people with mounts from other manufacturers, tend to prefer the method of removing these two big bolts entirely, and then just hammering the bracket off instead of, you know, using the destructive method and also getting covered in little flecks of metal. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take it all the way off, and conveniently we're using the exact same size of deep socket, the good old 13mm. There we go. And once you do that, the mount comes right out. Now that we have the motor mount out, we need to get this plate off, and like I was saying, we're going to use the method whereby we just hammer this off, because it's kind of just like, I don't know, compressed in there, just with this piece of metal on the mount. So we're going to put it in the vise and then just give it a few knocks, and hopefully it'll come right out. So in the end, I found that this was the best way to mount, or to put this in the vise. Put this in here, and then it's just kind of like that, and then just go boink, and it came right out. So here is the obligatory side-by-side piece. You can see the Mountune is just a lot beefier. It's a lot more solid. You saw earlier in the vise just how much that was moving around. I mean, you can sort of push that rubber and it's just like really quite soft, whereas this stuff feels pretty solid, pretty hard. Right, so in the box, apart from the actual mount, obviously, you get this sort of spacer thing, and you get one washer. There was an older version of this, which came with 3 washers, but they've revised the design. It used to be all flat like this, but now you've got like these like knobbly bits around the back, and we only need this one washer here, It's the only place that it'll fit. You can see that it's too big for there, too big for there, too big. These bits I mean too big, but this one obviously it can sit flush, so this is where this needs to go, and that goes there, and then whoop, and then the spacer on top, and that is how it is mounted in. So yeah, pretty much this. Get our bracket from before, which goes over this bit, and then just bolt up and we're done. So we're back underneath the car, so the first thing we might as well do is get this brace sort of loosely back on here where it was before. So obviously using the exact same hardware as before, but what we're going to do first is we're going to use a little bit of copper grease and we're just going to scooch that on to the threads. Now that this is on but loose, we can start getting the mounting back in place. So we're going to start off, make sure that the Mountune logo is pointing down, so then you know that you have the correct orientation. So I'm going to get the rear in first, obviously not tightening it too much, just getting it kind of loosely onto the threads. So we're going to get some more copper grease and put it on the threads of this bolt. And just position. Slot it in. Just get it in a bit, obviously don't tighten it up, but as long as it's on there so that you're hanging, you're good. So next we'll get some copper grease on the other big bolt. Okay, so you remember from before, we go through the end of the bracket, through the mount, through the washer, through your spacer, and then in. So that is the order of things, and we kind of just have to hover things up in here. So this bracket will pop over the end of it. You might have to sort of move the engine a bit with your elbow or whatever, but it will pop in there eventually. But it might be an idea just to get this through here first, and then try and move things around to get into the where we're trying to get into. Okay, so I've got it located, and now I'm just tightening by hand. And then I'm gonna grab the socket and just tighten all the way up to the end of the bracket. Obviously not fully tight, but tight enough that it won't slip off. So then I'll also just give the rest of these a brief little tighten, just tighten in, not really tightening them properly just yet. So now I'm going to torque the motor mount bolts. Now this is an interesting area of uncertainty seemingly on the internet. The Mountune UK video of doing this makes a mistake in the video and they say 24 Newton meters, which is obviously not enough, and then they corrected themselves in the video description to say 48 Newton meters. But interestingly, in the instructions that Mountune USA give out for these, it says way more. It says like 70 Newton meters, I think. So it's weird, this sort of variation or that you can find if you're doing some research on this. Oddly enough, the Cobb motor mount installations that I've seen, they don't even bother torquing, they just tighten up as much as they like, and then they just drive away. But I think it is good to use a torque wrench to make sure that we're at least at 48. So I mean, it's up to you, I guess, which which you want to subscribe to, 48 or 70. That's quite a decent jump. I mean, you could err on the side of caution and do 70, or you could kind of sit on the fence and do somewhere in between. I have my torque wrench dialed in to, it looks to be about 49ish at the minute, so I kind of just cranked it up, and I wasn't too bothered about it being exactly 48 as long as it was at least 48. So I'm kind of going with the Mountune UK instructions because I figure they're probably correct. There we we go. So that is technically the motor mount in. We just need to get those brackets back on that connect up here to the downpipe, and then we will be installation complete. We're gonna loosely fit this first before we tighten anything up. So just kind of move it into place. And loosely get our nuts on. Then the other little bracket up there. So we go, obviously, the plate first. Then our little like top hat thing, slot that through. And then nut. Alright, so I'm just gonna, it's still pretty loose, so I'm just gonna tighten these up a little bit, but not fully tight. Just tight enough so that it's kind of holding it where I want it to be. You can kind of see where the nuts were before, so that's kind of what I'm aiming for. Alright, so back onto the good old torque wrench. Right, so Mountune don't actually tell you what these nuts are meant to be torqued to, but I know that they are meant to be 24 Newton meters. So I have that dialed into my nice short torque wrench. What Mountune do tell you is that they have to be done in a particular order. So we do these upper ones first, and we do this one, and then this one. Okay, now this one. There we go. Okay, so then we're on to these two, so we do this one, and then the one further back. Well, there we go. That is the installation of the rear motor mount from Mountune complete. Relatively simple installation, just removing some nuts and bolts, taking the old one out, putting the new one in and replacing them. The only awkward part for me was having to crawl underneath the car because I'm just on jag and jack stands. It would have been a lot easier, of course, having a lift, but if you don't have the facilities, you don't have the facilities. So all that's left for me to do is to go out and see how it's performing on the road. Also, I need to wash my hands and maybe change my clothes because I'm absolutely disgustingly dirty from crawling around on the ground. Well, I hope you like this video. Please do like, share, and consider subscribing for more content to come very, very soon. Cheers, goodbye.